I got to get on early. I got to get off early. And I've got all kinds of furniture being moved in and out of this place. I see an opportunity. And when Stevie Winwood says, you see a chance, you take it. That's what we do. Welcome to Moohead Radio. I'm doing this solo because what I have to say today is going to create a tremendous amount of difference of opinion. And sometimes it's unavoidable. And today is, you see the title of the show. This is the topic, bound to bring out all the haters on both sides. And yes, we're talking about the Deshaun Watson case. Yes, I'm talking about the HBO Real Sports interview. And I'm talking about the circumstances that will be surrounding that and how this will affect the civil court situation. Let me be real clear about this. What I have read are transcripts, and then I watched the interview itself, and I try to take the drama out and just focus on the language and the words rather than on the raw emotion of what somebody's showing. I'm not watching a movie, I'm watching testimony. And I find that to be interesting. It kind of makes all of us kind of in on the civil case to get an idea of how things are stated. I want to point something out. One, HBO Real Sports is like any other program. It's trying to attract viewership and get as many viewers as they possibly can. It's a timely story, and that's why they did what they did. Were they single heavy-handed in favor of one or the other? Well, I mean, this is a salacious story. Let's just be honest about it. And this isn't going to look good in any situation, as Rusty Hardin stated for Deshaun Watson's side. It's like, this stuff isn't going to look good. And nothing ever looks good when you hear the testimony of two of the people who were slighted by Deshaun Watson. These two were chosen for a reason, and I think that's important too. I think that whenever you get the strongest, the strongest people in that you can get in to do this, and the ones who are able to vocalize and get across their story better than the others. Or maybe you could look at it another way. The people who have suffered more than the others, and maybe some of the others didn't suffer at all and are just along for a ride. We don't know. But we can say that the two women who came out, Solis and Hayes, those two women gave, in essence, pieces of testimony on HBO Real Sports. Probably the strongest of the two was Solis, who was not only emotional about what had happened to her, she gave some details that I thought were, specific. And we'll get to Hayes afterwards. And I'm looking at this like I'm on a jury, and I'm looking at this in a way to say, what makes sense to me linguistically? What is unclear? What would I need clarified? If I were an attorney, what would I ask to clarify language? And none of this was necessary, of course, as far as the television interview, because nobody was really questioning the plaintiffs in this instance. Initially, the story that is told is that Ms. Solis, who is a massage therapist, had watched Deshaun Watson grab his own penis with his hand and put it against her hand. All right? That is the heart of her testimony. And that she began to cry. There are two specific accusations. That's the first one. And she said, I cannot do this. I will not do this. And this is going to stop now. The second accusation is a perceived threat. And the perceived threat was that Deshaun Watson allegedly said to her something to the effect of, well, you wouldn't want something to go wrong with your, career any more than I would want something to go wrong with mine. The implication being that once he went overboard and went out of bounds, his method to try to rein back things back in was the realization that she might go public with this. And he said, you wouldn't want this to besmirch your career, which is a threatening comment, to be sure. That is not to be interpreted, in my mind anyway, in any other way, except to say, boy, you really wouldn't want to let this get out into the public. And that is the thrust of her testimony. All right, and I will quote this specifically. As I'm working, he deliberately grabs himself and puts his penis on my hand, Solis said. And I pulled my hand away instantly and I started crying. And I told him that I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Then she says, he just said, I know you have a career to protect and I know you don't want anyone messing with it. Just like I don't want anyone messing with mine, Solis said. To me, that's when I got really scared because that sounded like a threat to me. Meanwhile, Watson, of course, declined the interview, part of the advice of his attorney. So there's that, right? And I think that she was the more believable of the two, and let me explain why. The second woman, Hayes, described her interaction thusly. He wanted me, he being Deshaun Watson, he wanted me to kind of make a V motion in his pelvic area, she said. So go across his stomach to his thighs, back to his stomach. I just kept massaging and did what he asked until his penis kept touching me repeatedly as I did it. He was moving his penis back and forth as my hands moved as well. She concluded by saying, at some point he did ejaculate. That was mortifying and embarrassing and disgusting. All right. So the implication here is that his penis made contact with her due to a combination of the motion that she was doing and a motion that he was doing. Okay? That's the way, if I were a juror, this is the way that I would take it. Now, if I were on the jury, I would be waiting for any, questions to be asked of. And again, when you come out and you do this publicly, it's obvious that you're going to have to answer. You become part of discovery, and there will be questions asked of the women as well as questions that are going to be asked of Deshaun Watson. All Watson's attorney did was basically state that that Deshaun Watson has never assaulted or disrespected a woman in his life. That was basically all they had to say. When Soledad O'Brien, who was the interviewer on Real Sports, was asked Leah Graham, one of Watson's attorneys, why would the public believe one man versus 22 women? And this is how Leah Graham, one of Watson's attorneys, responded. And she was referring to Tony Busby, who represents all 22 plaintiffs. There's only one lawyer who is willing to take these cases. And as we know from Ashley Solis's deposition, Mr. Busby was not the first, probably not the second or third lawyer she went to, but he was the only one to take her case. Why? Not because it had merit, but because he would use these cases to increase his social media following and, quite frankly, to get on shows exactly like HBO Real Sports. Watson's legal team previously presented 18 massage therapists who vouched for Watson's appropriate behavior. We know that of those 18, 3 of them had sex with Deshaun Watson. By bringing 18 additional massage therapists into the equation, then they too are open for discovery questioning. So more will come out about that. Meanwhile, Leah Graham, when she was asked by Soledad O'Brien about Watson having sex with 3 of the accusers, Deshaun Watson has insisted that in these massages that he was looking for nothing other than professional services, but we know he did have sex with 3 women, right? That's what O'Brien asked. Oral sex with 2, vaginal sex with another. So how do you explain unintentionally ending up having sex with people who are giving you professional massages? This is how his attorney answered Leah Graham. Well, in every massage, I will tell you, he did go intending just for a professional massage. And only those 3 instances where sexual conduct occurred, consensual sexual activity, it occurred after the massage session had ended, Graham said. And Mr. Watson has testified and is insistent that sexual activity was initiated by the plaintiff in every single instance. This made Solis push back on the claim. Solis said, quote, "I am not a sex worker. I am a massage therapist." For them to say that anything was consensual, either they don't realize or they don't care about the danger that puts me in, because that gives the message to people that massage therapists do those kinds of things. Then the rest of the program kind of then started focusing on something that I think is quite interesting, the $230 million guaranteed contract. What Solis, one of the victims, said, it's just like a big screw you. That's what it feels like, that we don't care. He can run and throw, and that's all that we care about. Ms. Hayes, the second one, said, it was sick to me. I felt like he's being rewarded for bad behavior. All right. Here's what I know that I would ask right off the bat. First of all, and I want people to understand as I move around here, I'm starting this program a little bit sooner than I was expecting to because of the timing of furniture moving. I wanted to get it in, and you can see probably behind me, there's stuff going on here. After this, after Tony Busby made a news conference on Tuesday, Rusty Hardin, the attorney for Deshaun Watson, had this to say. At a press conference today, attorney Anthony Busby introduced the first plaintiff to the media. She identified herself as Ashley Solis. This is going back a couple months. In her remarks, Ms. Solis stated, "People say that I'm just doing this for money. That's false." Mr. Busby himself repeatedly claimed that the litigation he filed on behalf of other Jane Does isn't about money either. At his initial press conference on March 19th, announcing the first wave of lawsuits, Mr. Busby stated, "This case ain't about money, and it certainly ain't about seeking publicity or fame. I personally don't need it, and these women don't want it. This case is about female empowerment." Unquote. In fact, according to the documentation, Mr. Busby sought $100,000 in hush money on behalf of Ms. Solis to quietly settle the allegations the month before he filed the first lawsuit. Here is a quote from Busby, who is the attorney of the 22 women. Quote, "My client's demand is $100,000. He wrote in a February 9th, 2021 email on behalf of Ms. Solis. Ms. Brandfield Harvey followed up with a clarification of the $100,000 demand later that same day. This offer remains open until Friday of this week." Mr. Busby is copied on all of the emails. On February 19th, Mr. Gaffield, all right, and his firm is Scott Gaffield, the general counsel at the Athletes First Agency of Laguna Beach, he responded to Mr. Busby and Ms. Brandfield Harvey by inquiring about the rationale behind the $100,000 demand, given that we don't believe that the alleged facts show that Deshaun did anything wrong. Mr. Busby responded that same morning, we made a legit demand. You rejected it. We won't be making another or bid against ourselves. He then added, this is Houston, Texas. Perhaps you should find him a lawyer here so you can apprise both you and your client of the landscape here and who you are dealing with. Ms. Solis's testimony is badly damaged when you've tried to settle for $100,000. And this is clearly written and on the record. This is going to disappoint a lot of people who want to insist that Deshaun Watson is a rapist. I want to point out something. These were the two strongest witnesses that will come up against Deshaun Watson, and they both had stories to tell. But in each instance, there was something left out, and I'm filling in the blanks. A $100,000 hush money demand that was put on a table for a week's period of time and then lifted from the table means that regardless of Ms. Solis and empowerment and the things that she's doing now, she agreed in principle in a document to settle for $100,000 so that nothing would be said at all. In the case of Ms. Hayes, it's more damning. To go back to what she said, the V-motion massage she gave, and the fact that he did not grab her in any way, but utilized the motion of the massage as well as muscles in his body and wiggling his dick around without using his hands. He's a prestidigitator. That's a magician. That was her complaint. And that at some point, and I'm quoting, at some point, he ejaculated. Well, the first thing that I would ask is, and at what point did that happen? Because a timeline on this is significant. At some point is vague. Did she leave the room and he finished himself? Did she finish him? Did he just ejaculate while she was massaging him? We don't have that information because the language that was being used is vague and will be questioned in the civil case. You can't make vague statements without being questioned by the other side. So at some point, that's what happened. Questioning the validity of a $230 million contract is kind of foolish as well. And that will be just rejected summarily in court. Except what will happen in the end is that it's well publicized how much money Deshaun Watson is worth because he signed this contract. And do I think that that's a bad thing? Well, I mean, is it something I would have done in business? I really don't know. I know the Browns needed a quarterback, but I don't know what the specifics are in this case. So I can't answer what I would do if it were my business. Can't know that. What I can say is this. If you have a bad situation with somebody and somebody ejaculates on your massage table at some point, why would you continue keeping in touch with him? Oh, yes, that was a little detail that was left out and will not be left out in civil court. Ms. Hayes, for all of the complaining, continued to communicate with Deshaun Watson after the case, after the ejaculation, I should say. When asked why, she said, that's the way I chose to handle it. And then she gave what I would consider to be a very strange thing that would be stricken from court immediately. And that was, and I'm trying to find this exact quote, so bear with me. And I'm not finding this right now, but I will. What it amounted to, and I can give you the information, was that her comment was, I didn't know what he was capable of doing. He could have ruined my career. He could have assaulted me. And there was a third thing that he could have done. Now, that's something that in a court of law is not going to really be talked about very much. That's going to be just kind of a hearsay thing. It's like, well, he could have done any number of things, but he did not do them. There's no doubt in my mind that Deshaun Watson did something that ethically goes over a line, and he is going to be punished. There is going to be a monetary settlement. But if this is the best they have as far as testimony is concerned, he's not a rapist. And anybody who wants to use rapist in this context is lying to you. They are lying and trying to create waves and a hate case and whatever it is that they can do. There's just no evidence. And this is, in the end, what Rusty Hardin, Deshaun Watson, after the program, his attorney said, where is the evidence? Where is the evidence that he grabbed his penis and put it against your hand? Where is the evidence that he ejaculated? It seems to me, looking back at Bill Clinton as an unfortunate view of the past, that Monica Lewinsky did have a dress that Bill Clinton had ejaculated on. That's evidence. Testimony has to be backed up by evidence. When we look at some of the strangest cases, and in criminal law even, like O.J. Simpson, and O.J. Simpson getting off for a crime that virtually everybody believed that he committed, in the hope of tying evidence in, the horrible gloves, don't fit, must acquit. Hard evidence is the basis by which people win and lose cases. This is one side or two sides, two people speaking. But what it's not is evidential. in any way. And we'll get to more of that as the case moves along as far as civil court is concerned. So I guess what I want to say to everybody is to cool your jets. Everybody is predicting one set of circumstances, demise or absolute freedom. And I'll tell you something. I don't understand the lifestyle of NFL athletes. Looking at what happened to Dwayne Haskins, I don't understand what he was doing with a strange woman in his car at 6 o'clock in the morning with multiple drugs found in his system, walking the wrong way down an interstate because he'd run out of gas on the side of the road, and calling his wife to tell her that he was getting out of the car, but not telling her that there was another woman in the car with him. I mean, there are so many things we're not going to know because we weren't there. And we need that information. But what I'm going to tell you now is that he's not a rapist. There is no evidence from what women stated that there was any assault involved. What I believe, based upon their evidence that they gave on HBO's Real Sports, that he committed an absolutely grotesque act, something that has no business and no place. Your fame, your likeness, your image doesn't entitle you to behave in a certain kind of way. In the world that professional athletes live in, and it's not just athletes, it's big name people, period, celebrities in Hollywood. You saw a man slap a man in the face on national television for making a joke. You witness these things and you realize that there is a certain amount of entitlement that goes to people who have money, fame, and all the trappings that go with it. And I don't believe those people should be entitled. And I don't think that Deshaun Watson should be entitled to just waltz into a place and think he's going to get a handy. I don't think that that's right. And I'll never think that that's right. Do I think that that's enough to prevent him from playing football and earning a living? No. The reason, my friends, that the criminal case never got off the ground is because of the same reason that multiple attorneys turned Solis's case down. It wasn't a good case. And this same thing is being told about on television again, and it's coming out of her mouth. And besides the fact that she was clearly emotionally distraught, you didn't get the impression, nobody would get the impression that she was assaulted, but that something gross and disgusting had happened at her place of work. That's what I get out of it. And he should be punished for that because there's no rhyme or reason. I don't think that Bob Kraft should go in to a foreign sex shop and get a hand job or whatever the hell he got in there. I don't believe that that's right. I don't think that it's right that those massage parlors are paying municipalities to stay open and that local municipalities are on the take so that these places can stay open. I think that's grotesque behavior. There are a lot of things about this. I don't think that people should be hooking up and doing sexual things on Instagram. I don't think a smart person gets themselves into a lockdown situation with somebody they don't know. I think it's stupid on both people's parts. That's not the way to conduct business. And if you're a massage therapist or if you're a professional athlete, you don't put yourself in the middle of a situation like that. It's bad fucking judgment. And for that, Deshaun Watson deserves to get fined. And that's going to come in the form of a civil action, and he's going to owe people money. As far as the NFL is concerned, they have to go by behavior and all that. A lot of people want to compare it to the Trevor Bauer situation, but that's a situation where, literally violent sex, getting into asphyxiation and hitting people, and he about choked her out. It could have ended up in a disastrous situation in which the woman died. And she was asking for it. But it's unconscionable. If somebody asked you, hey, would you come all over me and just choke me out until I'm just on the verge of dying and then let go? Would you do that? I know that sure as hell I could not do something like that. Whether somebody wanted it or not, that's sick. That's warped. I think this whole story is warped. I think if somebody asked for an $100,000 settlement and now comes off as Simon Pure, that's grotesque. And I think if a guy walks in to what is supposed to be a massage session and tries to turn it into a hand job or more, that's just wrong. That's just wrong on so many levels. That's it. And Pat Seagramson, thanks for breaking this on the program. Finally, the 4-year deal with David Njoku is signed, sealed, and delivered. Folks, I got to attend back to my business behind me, but I want people to understand there is a middle ground in this, and I don't expect people to find it. But people who are on podcasts who are saying that this is a black and white, and I don't mean that in a racial sense, issue. There's a lot of gray in this, and there are going to be a lot more questions asked. If you put a gun to my head and you said, Mr. Moohead, what do you think's going to happen? I think he's going to get many weeks from the NFL, who's been lousy about women themselves, and they can't afford to let this rub off on them. He's going to get a large number of weeks that he's going to miss this coming football season. And he will pay some sort of settlement. And that will be the end of it, except for the people who want to keep it alive. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. That's what I have for you today. I will be back again with you. Probably not on Monday. That's Memorial Day. You all want to cook out your hot dogs and your hamburgers and all that stuff. So everybody have a very pleasant holiday weekend, and I'm going to find out just what's going on behind me. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and until next time, keep a look at your Twitter, and there might be another surprise broadcast. Until then, hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Good night.